unique show closed recently in the ArtsXChange Gallery at the Warehouse Arts Districts Association's facility in St. Petersburg. It was called The Masks We Wear, and it featured some of the Pinellas County School District's exceptional students' works of art.
This show happened because we have member socials quarterly, and I met the teacher, Zach Thompson, at the member social, and he had such a passion for his students and what art can do for these types of students. And he said the magic word, hope. Well, I'm a hopeaholic, and when he said that, I said, well, let's give him a professional exhibit, because I wanted the students to see their art displayed in a professional setting, even if they're not going to become professional artists later, but just to have that opportunity and see how creativity can be expanded and get that recognition. I was thrilled to do that for them. We try to do something interesting, supporting art at every level, whether they're students or adults, and that's our passion to continue our mission.
It's a specialized exhibit for Pinellas County students here, students with disabilities in the county, at the 4 ESE schools. So you have Richard L. Sanders, you have Calvin Hunsinger, you have Nina Harris, and you have Paul B. Stevens. Very early on, I just thought, gosh, these kids are so talented. I'm seeing these great things. I would love for them to have an opportunity to show their work. There's so many student art shows in the county, so many of them. And as an art teacher, you're supposed to submit for all of them, which is wonderful. But they're blind adjudicated. So these kids, these students, for them, they may have on that rubric scale a 4 because it's so skilled for them. But when you're looking at it, you may see a 1 or a 2 because you don't know the backstory of these kids. So I wanted the opportunity for them to have a show. I got with County, I talked with Sue Castleman, and Sue said, okay, all right, we can try that out. Just do all 4 ESE schools. And initially I was just asking for mine. And I said, okay. So basically it was a conversation that I got the approval. I had met Diane and brought up to her what I'm doing. I said, I'd love to put on a show with them, a space. And she said, absolutely, I love that idea. Let's give them a month. And then I, pondered on the theme. What kind of theme would these kids do well with? And I know that if anything, these kids are dealing with make-believe and identity and concepts of reality on a regular basis. So the idea of mask making and what's behind mask making and what that means in terms of identity is huge for them. It's huge for all students, it's huge for all kids. But for them especially, it's kind of like, for so many of them, the make-believe reality is the reality that they long for, because their normal reality is filled with so many different challenges. So when I proposed this idea to the other 3 art teachers, they said, great, yeah, because they also don't get the opportunity with their students to show their work also. We all fall into the same category. I think that all behavior, regardless of it being exceptional or a student that's in AP Literature IB program, you're making a connection first. Making the connection is the first part of it. I don't think that making that connection changes. It's about trust. When you're dealing with an exceptional student, it's, they have to first trust themselves, which in my experience that's usually something that takes a long time. It's about them trusting you first, and then you allow for them to have the confidence and to believe in themselves that they can achieve what they believe. And my methodology of teaching and how I bring it to them, those students, it's the same way that when I was working with adults, at Creative Clay. It's the same way that I'd work with advanced students when I would teach master art classes, over the last years. So I don't think that there is a difference. I think what makes it different is looking at what the student is able to achieve in that moment and understanding that it's going to be a process that's going to take many steps to get to what that end result should be. And that desired end result is going to be what both you and the student agree upon. So I do believe in pushing my students as much as possible because I know that they can achieve excellence, and I know that they can get there. I believe in them. Can they believe in themselves? And that's part of the journey. But once you see that change, it's unbelievable. I mean, the students these pieces that are hanging here on the wall from my school, I can't speak for the other schools, I don't know those students, but for my students, anybody that knows those students and knows those challenges, from when I first started with them a year ago to now, it's extraordinary. It truly is extraordinary. And that has been a relationship. I attribute the quality of that artwork with my students based on the relationship that I've been able to build with them. That's number one. These pieces are some of my favorites. These range everywhere from 2nd to 5th graders. And it was a two-parter. You have the canvas, which was a separate piece, and then you have the mask, the plastic mask, which was also another piece. We did the masks first with the students, and then at a later date we went and we did the canvases. And then we just attributed those masks onto the canvases based on where the student wanted to put it. The flower arrangements were done by one of my senior students with the approval of the elementary students saying, yes, that's awesome, let's do that, let's use those colors. So it was a little bit of a collaboration. But it was so exciting to do these pieces and to work with them and to see what they were able to create with, markers. Initially we were just going to start with markers because you can wipe the markers off, but at least it was a starting point to go what colors you want to use and the placement. But by the end of it, I just loved what they did. I loved it, and they loved it. So I was like, I don't want to touch it. And then we studied masks. We studied Asian masks, Greek masks, Roman masks, African masks. You can see that some of these students latched onto, I think you can really see it over here, the Mexican Day of the Dead mask when you really look at the lips and stuff like that. So they all kind of picked and chose the type of mask that they want, the culture that they wanted, and then they just took it from there. And then the paintings themselves we were looking at forests and gardens. So they got to choose with their mask what type of a garden they wanted to put their mask in. And some of them are very abstract, some of them are very distinct. I think this is very distinct of the forest. So it's all a mix of what the student envisioned. And no matter what they want to do, whether it's arts, medical, law, business, it's about having a creative mind. And it's about having the ability to use your imagination to the fullest. If that starts with arts, that starts with the arts. And I believe it does. I believe it starts with all the arts, music and visual art. So their intellect and their abilities and what they can choose to do with their life, it starts now. They just need encouragement, and they need the right people to believe in them, and they need the right people to know what they need in order to succeed.
Check out our website at www.wpds.tv for times and dates.